Hello and welcome to the Bike Lane. We're coming to you this week from Northside Wheelers, which is more like a bike museum than a bike shop. There's a lot to look at. We've got a big show in store with a preview of the Giro d'Italia, including an exclusive interview with Richie Porte, who gives us the inside word on how Team Sky are going to get Bradley Wiggins across the line in first place. In the Target Healthy Living tips, Scott McGrory heads down to the VIS to get some core strength exercises for all of us to do. Plus, Charlie Pickering gives us a view on whether he'd prefer to see Essendon win the flag in the AFL or Richie Porte, the outsider, for the Tour de France. And we drop in for the first time on the board meeting to try and determine what's more important, good on the road or cool in the cafe. Then, as always, we deal with what is on your mind. Well, if you did watch the show last week, you will have seen Will Walker, who unfortunately he can't make it back this week because he's busy responding to correspondence from Michael Bogard, his ex-wife, Michael Rasmussen, and Andy Schleck. Therefore, Wade Wallace has returned. Good to have you back, Wade.
Good to be back. Some big shoes to fill.
And Scott McGrory, you won't go away.
I'm always here, mate.
Well, the flag is in, the neutral zone is over. It's time to get started. Let's roll. The Giro d'Italia is upon us. We've gotten rid of the Spring Classics. It's time for the Grand Tours. So let's take a look at the course before we get into the contenders and we speak to Richie Porte. As always, 3 weeks of racing, 21 stages, and the Giro d'Italia is stacked with mountains. But the first stage is only 139 kilometres and could be the most nervous stage of the race because, well, the jersey's up for grabs and all the sprinters want to get a hold of it. And we're having the argument as to how many stages there are for the sprinters, and there may only be 3. But this is a race with lots of time trialling in it as well. There's a 52k time trial, there's a mountaintop finish in the time trial, but as always, lots of climbing throughout the Giro d'Italia and an excursion into France. So Scott, where is the race going to be won? In the mountains or against the clock?
Well, if you look at the Tour de France last year, of course the mountains are very decisive, but it was the amount of time trial kilometres. It was just a little bit over 100 kilometres in individual time trials last year. Bradley Wiggins was in the box seat for that, took out the victory. So I think this time though, for the Giro d'Italia, as always, we've seen these last few years, the back end of the Giro is so heavily stacked with massive mountains. So I think Bradley Wiggins may very well be in the pink jersey after that first long time trial, but he's going to have to fight very hard all the way to Brescia if he's going to hold on to it.
Last year's tour was tailor-made for Bradley Wiggins. This year's Giro course is not. But if you've only got a couple of stages to watch, Wade, and you've got to actually do a real job and get up in the morning, which stages are you going to stay up late for?
Oh, geez, only 2. I was looking through this today, and I was looking for only 2, and it's impossible to pick. I would say stage 8, the individual time trial, we're going to start seeing the GC starting to settle. I wouldn't necessarily stay up and watch it on TV, but if you're following it loosely on Twitter or whatever. But the 2 ones you have to see are stage 19 and 20. They're on a Friday and Saturday night. They're short, I believe. Stage 20 is absolutely massive. It goes over 4 mountain passes, and that's where this, it could be a fight to the death.
Stage 19 is the 139 kilometres.
Yeah, up.
Any short stage is going to be aggressive.
Yeah, they're up on rollers warming up. It's a massive race to someone like me, but to those guys, it's just.
Yeah, like that stage of the tour when Cadel won, that was 100 kilometres to Alpe d'Huez, and Contador attacked from the start. That is entertaining racing. Yeah. So there's not much that you can really afford to miss in this year's Giro d'Italia. So who are the favourites? Let's take a look at them. You get to start with Bradley Wiggins.
Oh, look, absolutely, Bradley Wiggins.
And you don't have to pick him.
Oh,
just tell us why you think
I
he can win.
I think he still will because, look, he won the Tour de France last year. We talk about the time trialling ability that he has, but at last year's Tour de France, there was only one rider in the mountains that appeared to be stronger than him, and that was his teammate Chris Froome, who's not in the race this year. And it's almost like when we go back to Miguel Indurain, everybody said that he won the Tour de France in those years because of his time trialling ability, but he had to get to the top of the mountains as well, and Bradley Wiggins can do it at the Giro.
Will race radio from Team Sky be a little bit like political documents? You have to wait for 25 years to transcripts of race radio to be released, and we can hear what Sean Yates actually said to Chris Froome. So you've got Wiggins.
Yeah.
But what about rider Hejerdal?
I've got Hejerdal.
You have to talk about Hejerdal.
I don't necessarily know if he's going to beat Wiggins in Nibali.
Well, there's this lack of confidence amongst the Canadians.
I'm backing him. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat every night watching him. And anything could happen, right? Those guys could crash, they could crack, whatever. So Hejerdal's in it, and you have to be in it to win. And
He's
I'm
been
backing
good.
him.
He's been good early season.
He's been excellent, yeah.
Don't
We saw
lose
him
any
at Liège,
faith.
Bastogne-Liège. He was phenomenal.
Yeah,
Okay.
we saw him there. We were very nervous because
I know,
you tipped him.
gave me a shout out, I saw that.
Yeah, that's right. We did too. That's how nervous we were. We thought about you during commentary. So I'll give you the view on Vincenzo Nibali. He races with instinct. His season has been like Wiggins last year and like Cadel Evans the year before. He won Torino, he won Trentino. He's looking good. He's got a strong team around him. And this is the race he has set himself for. He's won a Grand Tour in the past, albeit the smallest of all three, the Vuelta, and he was on the podium at the Tour de France last year. So I'm going to go with Vincenzo Nibali. But Richie Porte knows more about it than all of us. He's a former winner of the white jersey at the Tour de France, and not the Tour de France, at the Giro d'Italia. He'd like to get at the Tour de France, but he's too old for that. He's now aiming for yellow. Anyway, Richie, good to have you with us. Bradley Wiggins is one of the big favourites. What's going to be the key to him getting the win?
Yeah, I think obviously you look at the Giro and it's quite time trial heavy this year. But the thing with Brad is that people, they're comparing him and Nibali and saying Nibali's the better climber. But from where I was sitting last year in the Tour, Brad was climbing much better than Vincenzo. So, and then the time trials. So, and he's got a good, strong team there. So, look, I think it's going to be a good battle between, not just those two, but Ryder Hesjedal, he's going back as the defending champion, and he was at Tour of Romandy where I just was last week, and I think he's ready also to step up and fight for the pink jersey this year.
Hey Richie, besides Hesjedal and Nibali, who else do you think is going to be up there for GC?
You got to look at guys like Danny Moreno, who just won Flesh. He's not a great time trialer, but he can climb. But for me, I think it has to come down to those three guys. They can climb, time trial, and have strong teams there. So I guess there's always likely to be a surprise, but I think those three are just they have to be the favourites. So, Brad, especially, he won the Tour de France last year, for God's sake, and people seem to have forgotten that pretty quick.
Well, you yourself, Richie, you've had a great couple of seasons riding for Team Sky. We're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of questions asked to us on the bike lane as to why Richie Porte isn't riding for Australia's Orica Green Edge team.
Yeah, people say that, but at the moment, Team Sky, it's for someone like me that's still learning the trade of riding GC. It is the team to be. People, Australians are very patriotic, I guess, but at the end of the day, I'm a Tasmanian anyhow, so But look, to be serious, I think down the path, I'd love to ride with, Shane Bannon and Neil Stevens, their team. But for the moment, I have to be realistic, and the best place to learn is Team Sky, and it just doesn't really make sense.
Well, you've put Tasmania on the map, so to speak. Thanks for joining us, and I guess we look forward to seeing you in the Tour.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
So, Richie has not dealt with Cadel Evans. Let's have a look at some of the other Australians and start with Cadel Evans. What are our expectations?
Oh, look, I think for me, if he finishes in the top 5, I think that would be successful. I know he's focusing mainly on the Tour de France, of course, and he's using the Giro d'Italia as preparation for the Tour, but I'm sure he'll go for the victory if he can see it within his grasp. But I think top 5 would be a really good result for him.
Wade?
I'd say my expectation would be a top 10.
So your expectations are lower?
It's pretty low. He hasn't been racing much this year. He's
low in relative terms, because anybody else, if you spoke about as top 10, you'd be excited.
Imagine if
I'll
I got
take
a
one.
top 10 in the Giro.
Yeah.
But
take top 100.
No, he's using the same build-up as similar as to what he did in 2010. But he was getting results every single race, and he did the Ardennes, and he was doing phenomenal. And then he did, I think, 5th in the Giro. This year, he's doing the same build-up, but he's not getting the same results.
I think a guy of Cadel's class is too good just to race for somewhere between 5th and 10th. So what is most important, and how I'll measure him, is if he gets a stage win. I'd love to see him get one of those dramatic stage wins like he did when he had the rainbow jersey on and he won across the muddy roads of Tuscany as opposed to the white roads.
Yeah.
Another Australian to look at is Jack Bobridge. Now, this is a guy who has oodles of talent, and we don't want to talk about Jack in 5 years as what could have been. Is it crunch time?
Oh, it's very close to it. I think we're going down that road where perhaps we will be saying those comments in 4 or 5 years. He really does need to pull his finger out and actually start riding the bike fast.
I hope you're wrong.
He's only 23. I think we might be a bit harsh on him. He's only 23. He's got rheumatoid arthritis, which is very painful from what I understand. And really, you look through his results since he started as a pro, he's only won, I think, the Eneco Tour stage. And he really hasn't done a lot, but he's set himself up for some massive expectations with the Pursuit world record he got. So, I mean, he's still really, really young and has the world ahead of him.
But that Pursuit record that he took, that shows his physiology. And we know in all the lab testing and all the Pursuit training and all the SRM data that comes through the national team that he is an extraordinary talent. And he has the physiology to do it. So the only difference between him being successful is what's up top. So let's hope.
And that's the reason we're hard on him, because he's physically better than what the results sheet is showing. So speaking of which, what about Matt Goss? The question came to us via What's on Your Mind. Matt Goss is the highest paid rider by all reports at Orica Green Edge. He won a stage of the Giro last year. Simon Clark, by contrast, won a stage of the Vuelta and the King of the Mountains jersey. He delivered more value for money. He delivered a lot more value for money, but he delivered more on the results sheet. And Goss had so many seconds and thirds. The pressure's on him. He is under the microscope.
Oh, and he knows it. He's fully aware of the fact that he has to win something at the Giro, as he did last year. But it's really tough for the sprinters. I always say it. If you're a GC rider and you finish second, third or fourth, say in Paris-Nice, it's a good result and you'll get paid well for it. But as a sprinter, you finish second, you're the first loser.
Because second and third don't go onto the podium at the Grand Tours. It's only the winner. So it is pretty harsh judgment. But if you were trying to negotiate a contract with Goss, now's the time to do so.
Absolutely.
Because it's cheaper. If you're Matt Goss, you're holding off and trying to get some wins. Do you think they can get the train right, the lead-out train right?
It doesn't look like it, to be honest. I mean, they have like Argos Shimano to deal with. They have Lotto Belisol to deal with. They have Quick Step to deal with. Those are some pretty good lead-out trains, and they're not showing signs of being able to compete.
And I don't think there's many real stages for the sprinters in this race. There's only 3 pure sprinter stages. You would argue maybe 5 or 6, but I think there's only 3 real sprinter stages.
Well, it's bookend, isn't it? First and last stage are definitely sprint stages, and then amongst the other 3, almost 3 weeks, there is perhaps 2 to 3, maybe 4 stages that the sprinters can go for. There's not much over 3 weeks.
And one more Australian, just briefly, he's not in the race, Cameron Meyer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? But we know why. He had surgery in a private part of his body earlier in the year, and that's kept him out from the early season. So he's actually set the first goal of the year to be the Tour of Swiss. So he's bypassing the Giro because he's not quite ready. But he was 6th at the Tour of Turkey. So his form is coming. So hopefully he can go well at the Tour of Swiss. And if he does, then he might get a start at the Tour.
Yes or no? Is he a future top 10 contender at a Grand Tour?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, more. He's gone with 100%. Yes, I think he is. I hope he is. Throughout the Giro d'Italia, we're going to have what is going to be called the Weekend Warrior, presented by Champion Systems. So what we want from you is you to nominate who's been the champion of the weekend, but not the leader of the race overall, and not somebody that's won the stage. It might be the guy that just made it inside the time delay. So we're looking for your Weekend Warrior. Still to come on the show, we've got Charlie Pickering, plus we deal with what's on your mind. A couple of weeks ago, we caught up with Charlie Pickering, but part 2 had to make way for Jürgen Ruhlens last week. So Charlie, this week, we've managed to squeeze you in. Here it is. You're an avid Essendon supporter. You also love cycling. So given the choice between Essendon winning the flag and Richie Porte being a surprise winner of the Tour de France.
Oh, you can't do that.
We've just done it.
This may end the interview right here, but I have to say Essendon winning a flag.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a Melbourne thing?
I think it's a Melbourne, but it's like religion, man.
Yeah.
Like that's since birth. I can't.
It's tribal.
Yeah, but that's a Sophie's choice that you gave me there. I can't possibly make that decision. You know?
I won't tell Richie.
Because I've got to say that. Yeah, please don't. Like staying up late every night and watching Cadell win was that was one of the great experiences, and not just for me. Like so many people shared that experience, and so. Great. So yeah, what I'll say is, if Essendon can't win the flag, happy to watch Richie win. Yeah.
Okay, very good. What do you make of the relationship between the mainstream media and cyclists?
I think it's really changing. Like I do feel that it's changing. I think mainstream media has taken a long time to figure out. I guess to figure out that cycling isn't just guys in Lycra getting in your way on Beach Road, or cycling's everyone, and it should be everyone. and I'm going to advocate cycling. I'm going to point out the fact that I get to work quicker on my bike than I do in my car, and I love my commute, and everyone who drives hates their commute. And everyone I know who commutes on a bike loves their commute to work. They love going to work in the morning. And I'm going to tell as many people that as I possibly can. And what I've found over time is I've just stuck to my guns. People give me shit, but eventually they stop giving you shit. As long as you just stick to it, as long as you're consistent and go, this isn't a fad, this is a thing that I do. And there's reasons why it's a thing that I do. And people after a while go, well, I'm exhausted. Yeah, I'm exhausted giving him shit, it's not hurting him, so I'm not going to do that.
Good to see Charlie Pickering from the project advocating for cyclists. It's great to have you on our side. Up next, we deal with what's on your mind. This is one of our favourite segments where we deal with what is on your mind. It's presented by Champion Systems. And as always, we're going to start with an honourable mention, which deals with the question about Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome. Will Bradley Wiggins ride for Chris Froome at the Tour de France? Or will they tell Froome to wait for Wiggins? What do you think? We've seen it all before. Le Monde Hinault, will it happen?
1985, Bernard Hinault won the Tour in 85, then into 86, promised that he would work for his teammate Greg LeMond, and didn't. He stabbed him in the back, tried to at least, but LeMond came up on top. Look, I don't think that will happen with Bradley Wiggins this time around. He's publicly stated that he's out there for Chris Froome, and I think they're a really tight-knit team, and he'll do that.
You trust Wiggins' word?
I do, because I don't think he's going to be able to back up a Tour win after a real shot at the Giro anyway, so I think he is going to support him.
Yeah, I believe it mainly for that reason, because he's targeting on the Giro. And we're going to catch up with Richie Porte, hopefully throughout the Giro, and we'll ask him the question, will Bradley Wiggins follow through and support Froome? We think that he will. But the Giro d'Italia, Giro special, we're covering it throughout the month. The Giro d'Italia has done a lot of work in the last few years to improve its social media presence and its general engagement. Is this taking the Giro to the next level and starting to challenge the position of the Tour de France?
Oh, look, I'm not sure if it'll challenge the Tour just yet, but it certainly is a big step up. And the new race organiser, Michele Acquarone, I'm a big fan of his. He's on Twitter, he tweets in English all the time. He's really trying to globalise the Giro because they've conquered the market of Italy. Yeah. The Tifosi, the fans in Italy, they love their race. So they've got that covered. They now need to expand, and they will close the gap to the Tour, but it's a long time before they surpass them.
And he shows such a human side. He says when he's wrong.
Yeah.
That stage in Torino Adriatico, which was a ridiculous stage for a lot of riders. Taylor Phinney was outside the time delay. Everybody wanted him back in. And Acquarone tweeted that he got it wrong. He went too far. Gotta love that.
It's much more human, and he's really won the hearts of the fans and the people. And I love the Giro because of that, because I feel involved with it. And you see the photography and the imagery that comes back, the video, and it's so wide open. But in the Tour, that's very, very tightly guarded. You can't find YouTube clips on it or anything. So it'll be interesting, because when the Giro does get big, and it will.
What does it do then?
Yeah, what does it do then? It's because it's going to change. It's just nature.
Their Twitter account's got about 250,000 followers. By comparison, the NFL, so the gridiron in the US, has got 14 million. So cycling is still very much a minority sport in the media. And it actually says a little bit about the demographic. There's a lot of old people who follow the sport in Europe and less young people. So getting on that social media is going to be really important to that next stage.
Well, especially in Italy itself. All the followers in Italy, there'd be so many that wouldn't even know what Twitter is.
Yeah, I read somewhere that 50% of Italy, maybe this is just in some spots, but the internet isn't very good there apparently. So.
Yeah, well, the Giro d'Italia, it's good to see them really engaging with the social media and their general media strategy. So James Kelly, you're the winner of the Champion Systems Winter Vest this week. Keep the suggestions coming for what's on your mind. We've got the log going, it's getting big, and there's some great suggestions. We're looking forward to reading more this week as well. After Dr. Mitch Anderson last week in the Target Healthy Living Tips prescribed chocolate milk, which is a popular prescription, and I'm on board, Scott McGorry this week heads down to the Victorian Institute of Sport with their strength and conditioning coach, Michael Crooks, to give us a few pointers on core strength exercises.
Well, we're down at the Victorian Institute of Sport, and one of the strength and conditioning gurus down here, Michael Crooks. We're going to talk about, I guess it's been around for a couple of years now, but the discussion has been about core strength and core stability. Back in my day when I was racing, we just got on the bike and rode. Yeah. But I know that all of the professionals, if they're serious these days, are doing something to improve their core strength. Yeah. Firstly, give us an explanation as to why core stability is so important now.
I guess what we consider it as, it's more as core control rather than core strength. And really what we're looking at doing is trying to create a nice stable base in which we can apply power off. So if you think about holding a lot of tension through our spine and through our hips and through our shoulders, it means we're going to be fighting the bike, as opposed to not having any control and being really sloppy on the bike. There's a lot of wasted movement as well. So we want to try and develop the skills and the coordination through our core, through our hips, through our spine, to try and create nice balanced movement on the bike.
I guess if you look at pretty much all of the best cyclists in the world, they're all very smooth on the bike, very position themselves very well on the bicycle as well. So I guess you can imagine that the more efficient you are, the stronger the core you have, the faster you go.
For sure, and if you think about it from an efficiency perspective, if we're smoother on the bike and we have this good rhythm and we have this good balance on the bike, that's less energy that we're expending. Less energy means better performance at the back end of the race.
Okay, so for those at home, and if you're not registered in the gym or you don't want to go to the gym and you want to do some core training at home, what would be, say, 2 of the most important exercises that you should do?
Yeah, we'll have a look at what we call a running man position.
Okay, so with a running man, we're trying to create a 45-degree angle with the body, trying to keep the ears away from the shoulders, as much length through the spine as possible. And all we're going to do from there is draw that knee under your body and take it back, and trying to limit any movement throughout the rest of your body.
And we're going to look at a modified yoga pose as well, where we're trying to engage the shoulder girdle, the spine and the hips as one collective movement.
Okay, so we start with our elbows tucked in, with your thumbs against your ribs. We contract our glutes in our stomach and push up through the heels of our hands, and then simply break at our knees and take our hips back over our heels, trying to keep our spine as long as possible. Out and back down, keeping those elbows tucked in.
There you go. There's a couple of exercises that you can do at home to improve your core stability, and it should be able to make you more efficient on the bike.
Unfortunately, it looks like there are no excuses. You can do core strength exercises anywhere, but did you do them when you were racing?
We didn't even know what they were. You know, these days I still don't do any. It's just about laying off the beer, really.
Wade, do you do core strength exercises?
No, I don't. It's kind of like flossing my teeth. Whenever I go into a race and I start hurting around here and it gets sloppy, I wish I had done it.
Flossing your teeth is easier. Next up, we've got a new segment for you. This is a new segment in the bike lane where we drop into the cafe and interrupt the Friday board meeting. And on this occasion, we discuss the all-important issue: good on the road or cool in the cafe? Let's hear what they had to say. What's more important, good on the road or cool in the cafe?
Well, preferably both, but if it's hard to pull off, I'll go to the cafe.
Jeff?
Definitely the road. The cafe comes second, but you got to do it with style. Yeah.
Which one do you work harder on?
Depends which year. This year I'm working on the cafe. Okay.
Which one's more expensive?
Take them. They're both ball line. Ball line. Yeah.
You've got to see his wardrobe, and you'll know.
Mike, what about for you? Because you're running lean,
Well,
but you run the fixamatosis as well.
I'd like to be good on the road, but it's easier to be good in the cafe.
It is. A female's perspective?
On the road, form I think is everything. You don't need to be A grade, but I think you have to sit on the bike well and look the goods, and no black socks. In the cafe, look at the cap and.
Bradley Wiggins won the Tour de France with black socks.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Still doesn't make it right.
Therein lies the problem. Yeah.
Is it cool to wear the club kit?
Absolutely. You can wear it every day of the week. Put a number on. You wear your club kit in an open race. That's you show your colours proud. So yeah, definitely.
Do you choose the club you join based on their kit?
A lot of people are now. I mean, the St Kilda kit's gone through quite an evolution in where it is today, right? You know, it's certainly been a good marketing tool for the club. It has a lot of presence, a lot of visibility, has a fair amount of roots that, you know, even in the 14 years we've been around, so there's been quite a lot of development of it, and yeah, it has. We're starting to develop a little bit of a heritage at St Kilda, so which is good.
So the St Kilda kit is better than Carnegie Hall?
Absolutely.
Oh, come on, give us a hard question.
Okay, so admittedly it's a little bit shallow, worrying about whether you look good or you go good. Seems like the consensus is it's easier to look good. But when you were a pro, how important was looking good versus actually being good?
Oh, extremely. And I learnt it from a wise old professional, Dave Mann, who told me once when I was really struggling on the bike to try and get across to a breakaway group, he said, you never sacrifice style for speed.
Wade, you'll like this. From the 1996 Herald Sun Tour, I heard a story that whilst the rest of your team were ordering muesli, pasta and so on from their swan year down at the shop, you asked for Pantene shampoo and conditioner. Is it true or not false? True.
You had a ponytail, I saw.
I did have a ponytail at one stage, yes. One of those mistakes throughout my career. Life's full of hurdles.
It would have been
one
cool
of them.
then.
It's easy to look good, isn't it?
Oh, it is, but you look down. If you're looking good, you feel fast, right? So you just push it down much harder.
Yeah, I agree. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Throughout the month of May, we're going to have a big look at the Giro d'Italia. And in the preview, we even heard from Richie Porte, who's got complete faith in Bradley Wiggins. Keep the feedback coming. We love listening to it. We love reading it, I should say, particularly for the segment What's on Your Mind. Look forward to reading them this week. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.